Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. I am your host, Shayna, and this is yet another episode of One Track Record. Thank you all for your patience. I know there was a bit of a hiccup where I had some technical difficulties, but I'm back, baby. I'm back and I'm better. Anyway, I see I have a few new subscribers, so welcome to the Trackstar family. I am normally a lot more calm and less crazy, but it's been a week. Anywho, I want to thank those again who have donated behind the scenes. You know who you are. I don't necessarily want to highlight you in case if you would like or prefer to remain anonymous. But I want you to know no matter what amount, or if you just simply hit the like button and share the content. I appreciate it all. And more than ever, if you've been around for a while, you know that over anything else, I prefer a comment and interaction within the live chat if possible. Now, today's episode will not be that long simply because I want to dedicate more time into kind of making bonus content for the stories and illustrate a way to highlight the core of what I'll be talking about today. So, some of you may be looking at this title and you're like, what is temperaments? Maybe you've never heard of that. Maybe you have, but you haven't gone into depth with that. And I am here to kind of explain it the best way possible. Unfortunately, I don't have the best of illustrations like in the previous episode, but with the use of storytelling for the upcoming month, hopefully I'll be able to shed some light on that with some examples. Okay? So let's dig in. So, in order to fully grasp the idea of personalities and temperaments, I will be providing you with two websites in which it's all done for free, where you can take an assessment to better understand your personality and your temperament. Fair enough, right? Because on this channel, again, we're not just looking solely on interpersonal relationships with different types, whether it be romantic, familial, business, but we also want to and owe it to ourselves to take care of ourselves first before we try and diagnose or fix anybody, which we can't do. You know who can. Amen. So let's take a look at what the definition of personality even is, because we have to start somewhere. So, what is personality? Personality, on a psychological standpoint, is the distinction of traits that contributes to an individual's makeup. And please note, experiences and situations in each individual's life may vary because what I really want to drive home in this episode is that personalities, as distinctive as they are always subject to change. So some of you may be asking, well, why should I know my personality or personality type? And in my opinion, here's why. Knowing your personality or personality type may help you to better understand the role others play in your life and the role you play in theirs. Hmm. If there's anything I could stress on this channel, hands down, is the importance of both verbal and nonverbal communication. There is a lot of nonverbal cues that if you don't pay close enough attention, you may set yourself up for sabotage when it comes to interpersonal relationships. Why do I say that? If you don't know, or if you're not able to pick up on clues as to how important you may be or the role that you play in other people's lives, you, my friend, can be subject to a lot of mistreatment to yourself and sometimes to others. The gist of really getting to know your personality is when you know yourself on a personal level, you start to weigh out the pros and cons of people and you start to kind of declare what you as a person feel like you either deserve or you don't deserve. I'm going to leave that right there. So, how can I better understand my personality type? What avenues can I explore? Well, after doing some research, there are multiple different personality tests. However, there is one that kind of stands out more than the others in regards to narrowing down your personality type and 15 others. So, in total, about 16. That's pretty precise, if you ask me. Almost leaves very little room for error. Now, the most ideal personality test you can take is the MBIT, or the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, which is ultimately an assessment that focuses on those 16 different components. So we're looking at something not exactly more of a true or false, A, B, C, or D. This assessment, you're looking at it almost as if it's a scale. Some of you may be familiar with surveys, especially when it comes to your profession. Maybe you work in an office job, and you've noticed that on surveys, typically, they like to have a certain thing called somewhat, where maybe it's neutral, maybe it's a strong yes, a strong no, a strong like, a strong dislike. And there's not necessarily a yes or no answer. Sometimes things are just neutral, where they maybe lean more towards the left and more towards the right. This is that type of assessment, which I think is an amazing tool. And later down in this episode, I'll be talking more about that. I can also provide some links in the description of where you can take this assessment for free. Who wouldn't want to get to know their personality and how they interact with others for free? You're joking, right? All right. So, what are the different components? What does that look like of this Myers-Briggs type indicator? So, the four main components consist of subcategories called the analysts, you have the diplomats, the sentinels, and the explorers. So, Shay, what are you talking about? What are these big words? What in the world are you talking about? I'm guessing these things have subcategories, and you'd be right if you thought that. So let's go into each of the four main components and how subcategories will kind of further determine your personality type. And just letting it be known, when you do take this test online for free, it will explain everything for you, because what I'm about to go through are just subcategories or titles within the main component. So, starting with the analyst, you have these titles. You have the architect, the logician, the commander, and the debater. Sounds kind of crazy, right? The debater. Ooh. Is this the person that always got to fight about everything? Well, you'll figure that out when you take the test, is all I'll tell you. But among these four titles broken down under the analyst, these folks are the intuitive, deep thinkers. Have you ever met a person, even in their youth, they may have seemed like they were well older than what they really were? And don't get me wrong, there's nothing, there's really no correlation between true wisdom and age. Age and wisdom, two separate things. We all know an old fool. And this is why I leave my camera off for this, because I swear I don't be trying to judge nobody. But I bet you as soon as I said an old fool, somebody came into your head. Anyway, okay. So, yes, these are the intuitive and the deep thinkers. They tend to lean more towards rationale and intellect instead of emotion. You ever met one of those people who are just great at bringing information, and they'll bombard you with information per se, but sometimes they're not even the best to just read the room and know that maybe this isn't the time to let you know about whatever it is they're passionate about, and that you may be making this person feel bad in front of people. They tend to be more on this side, the analyst. Now let's go into the next category. So with this category, this is the diplomats. No, I'm not talking about Joel Santana for all my New York people. This category has these titles listed as subcategories. We have the advocate, we have the mediator, we have the protagonist, and we have the campaigner. One more thing I might add about this specific website that I'm going to be giving you for this assessment, I love how they connect certain celebrities or people of authority to these subcategories, these titles, because it gives you a living example. And I'm going to talk about more so of what you should expect when you take this assessment, by the way. But the diplomat tends to lean more towards emotional intelligence and focuses on the essence of a person or a thing they're passionate about. But just like the analysts, they too are very intuitive. Their intelligence comes from more so of emotional intelligence. Okay? So these are the persons or the people who can read a room, who are able to think deeply, but know that, hey, maybe this isn't necessarily the time or place to speak on this, even though I'm passionate about it. I'll just find somebody else who's just as passionate about it as I am. Right? So let's look into the next category. We have the Sentinels. So these titles under the Sentinels are the logistician, sorry, the defender, the executive, and the counsel. So what are they highlighted as? What are we looking at with them? These are the observers and the judges. Ooh. And I'm not necessarily speaking on a place of judges. See, we've already spoken about in a previous episode how the English language can really water down and can really replace or even lose things in translation. Because when you read the word judges, you're thinking judgment, people judging you. That's not necessarily the case with this type of personality. This personality is more so when it comes to judging, it wants to weigh pros and cons, constantly looking for order, for stability. You may know that person in your life who literally is just like, okay, if I do go to this party, what will happen? If I don't go to this party, what will happen? They're not necessarily judging you for going. They just want to see what benefit they have when it comes to going or not going. I hope that makes it a little bit more clear. So it's not necessarily always judging people, it's more so judging and weighing out pros and cons for every facet of their life. Okay. Let's go to the last but not least category. We have the explorers. So these titles are the virtuoso, the adventurer, the entrepreneur, and the entertainer. They too, like sentinels, are very observant. However, they're more so listed as the side of the observers as the prospectors. So the sentinels more so focus on judging, weighing out pros and cons. These, however, explorers are more so on the prospect. They're just the go-getters. These are the people who wake up in the morning and is just like, man, I don't gotta go to work. I don't got no plans though. I'm about to wing it. We about to do whatever. We outside, okay? Those friends that have no kids, right, in your friend group, and because they have no kids, but they got their tax refund check, they're like, yo, what's up? It's Thursday. I'm trying to go to Miami by Saturday. Those are the explorers. Those are the people who want to live the fullest in the moment. Okay? Gotta love them. Now, when you take this test online, it's going to give you 5 letters used to identify one of the 16 personality types. So, as an example, I've put mine up there. So, again, the 5 letters would be used to identify your personality type under the Myers Briggs model. Mine is the INTP T. Now, some of y'all are like, what in the world does that mean? And again, I do not necessarily want to ruin anything for you because this should be a personal experience. However, I'm just going to go into what the letters in itself stand for. Okay. And this goes for any personality type. When you see these letters, the E is for extroversion, the I, introversion. So this focuses on if you are an extrovert or if you are an introvert. We've spoken about that in the previous episode when it came to romantic relationships and unlikely pairings. If you haven't already, go ahead and check that out. I promise you, it is kind of eye opening. Now, we also have S, which comes to the sensing, the N, which represents intuition or being intuitive. The T stands for thinking. The F is for feeling. The J for judging. And the P for perceiving. Kind of, helpful to recognize what each letter stands for. Now, for work purposes, as let's say I'm an employer and I want to pick the best candidate amongst thousands of applicants. Let's say I'm a representative from Indeed, any of these search engines that require you to have a resume, a cover letter, things of that nature. Because let's be honest, not everybody has the means or wants to use AI. And God bless those people. In this day and age, oh, child. But anywho, some of you may know where I'm going with this, but if you just so happen to be an employer, a manager, a supervisor listening to this right now, I want to ask you, and please feel free to leave it in the comments, if you've ever heard of a Kolbe score. Kolbe. Now, a Kolbe score, because again, we don't limit ourselves to any type of relationship on this channel. We're going to talk about it all. This is for my business folk right now. A Kolbe score, instead of using letters like mine with these INTP-T, it more so focuses on numbers, where with a series of numbers has my code to my work personality as to how I work with others and how I work by myself to achieve the same goal to get the job done. Ah, very interesting, right? Because let's be honest, we all have that one person at work who we're just like, how are they still here? Versus that person at work where they're a nervous wreck. You don't know if they get any work done at all. They're busy biting their nails all day. They might be crying outside for the fourth time this week and smoking a cigarette. You may have the person who literally wants to fall asleep and is fighting for their life to stay awake and is about to have their third cup of coffee. Yet all of them still work there and have not been fired. And you may wonder, well, they haven't been fired, so they've got to be getting their work done, because I'm pretty sure if they weren't, it's kind of automatic grounds almost to just get yourself fired. A Kolbe score would be perfect for identifying that. If you'd like me to drop more content about Kolbe scores in the future, let me know in the comment section. But back to this. So I mentioned all this about the Myers-Briggs and this and that and about personality. So I've got a few more questions for you, right? Just some more thought-provoking questions. What about character? How is character measured, and what's the difference between personality and character? Well, we already spoke about personality, being that it's the distinction of traits that contribute to an individual's makeup and is subject to change. But let's look at character and how that can be measured, because that's pretty deep. Character is comprised of integral components that ultimately remain consistent. So, no matter what the situation is, let's say if I am that person who judges everything before doing anything. Let's go back to that example where I'm the person who always, and I mean always, judges the pros and cons before I touch anything, before I make a move, right? In essence, let's say if I meet that spontaneous person who's ready to go to Miami on Thursday night or on Saturday, as I said before, that personality can change me hanging around somebody who's spontaneous, but I want to pre-plan everything. We spoke about that type of romantic relationship, but what about friendships? What about business partners? What if I want to make moves to go to Miami to close a business deal right away because the money is hot, right? But I'm used to planning out everything. I don't know. Do we have the expenses to necessarily pick up and go right now? What about the other team members? So, personality, in essence, can change, but character wise, I can say, as the person who maybe plans out everything, that no matter what situation, even if I'm more led to the money or to the betterment of the business, I'm going to remain consistent knowing that there could be pros and cons to this. And maybe I should prepare myself in case of the cons. You see what I mean? So, in essence, I can still be a very cautious person, but I don't necessarily have to let my caution or my cautious side or suspicion hold me back from bettering myself. The core is still there, but I'm using it more so as protection rather than a hindrance. Ah. So if this character never technically changes and seems like it's more innate, it's in my nature, what can I use to measure that then? What test are you going to throw at me, Shay? Well, there's 4 types of temperaments without subcategories. So let's take a look at those. So the 4 temperaments are the sanguine, the phlegmatic, the choleric, and the melancholic. What in the world did she just say? Phlegmatic? Who's sick? Who got cold in their throat? What are you talking about? I got you. I got you. Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. So these are the 4 temperaments. And this is more so of an illustration. I'm not automatically saying that they're connected to moods since you're seeing colors on here, which kind of suggests moods, right? Because it's different than personality. Again, personality is always subject to change, but the core of a person is not. So, with these 4 temperaments, what do each look like? Let's take a look. Let's start with sanguine. I know the order here isn't necessarily first, but let's take a look at sanguine. So, sanguine tends to be very outgoing, cheery, optimistic, and extroverted. These are your people who in high school, they're probably going to be the quarterback, the head cheerleader. Okay, they do not mind being in people's faces. Typically, they don't really go for the routines and they kind of prefer to be more adventurous. So they're looking to live life seeking the thrill of it all. These are your people that they may jump from interest to interest, hobby to hobby, and they may learn so much of so many things that they never truly master anything. Okay. But the thing to look out for these sanguines, and you may be one, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. You have to be careful though, because wanting to partake in so many things for the sake of feeling thrilled may be your downfall. So you got to be careful with the lusts and the passions of this world. You got to stay prayed up. And I mean that wholeheartedly. Now, let's go to the choleric. So the choleric typically is the person who is the high achiever. They're very success oriented. They are natural born leaders. When I tell you they can wholeheartedly steal the attention in any room, they may lead towards the side of extrovert, but they can be an ambivert where they know how to work a room, they know how to be social like the sanguine, but they also can appreciate their time being in solitude. Whatever it is that it takes to quote unquote be successful and win, the choleric is there. Okay. Now, the downside that some people may note for cholerics, they may have a problem being under leadership because they themselves play so well in a leadership role. But the problem is that most cholerics run into, in order to be a leader, you have to first be led. So sometimes you may not have all the answers, and that's okay. Sometimes you may depend on others to take the wheel so that maybe you need to learn from their mistakes so that you can be a better person and come out on top and maybe be better than your predecessor. The choleric also does tend to look or lean more towards logic and being analytical than to be creative. And that is okay as well. They may prefer math over art. They may prefer logic and reasoning over music. And that's okay. Not saying that they wouldn't enjoy music, but talking to a choleric, they might be the time they might be the personality, the character to let you know the science of music and why it's so impactful. Ah. Now, I feel like for the most part, a choleric could be misunderstood as well because typically they are the type of character that gets mistaken as bossy or rude or the know it all because they're so experienced and so confident in everything they do. Now, I don't want no smoke with a choleric, so I'm gonna move along. The next here is the melancholic. These are your loyal, kind, and introverted people. Now, in essence, to their core, these are the people who are sensitive. When I tell you they feel their feels, these are the people you may want around you. God forbid somebody passed away in your family and they see you crying. Now they're going to be the type to hold your hand and cry with you. And they're going to remember, even though they haven't seen you in 6 years, they still remember that your favorite color is purple. So now they send you purple lilies. Okay, these are those people. They feel emotions a lot stronger than most. They have a very high emotional intelligence and the reciprocity to make you feel worthy, to make you feel loved is amazing. They make the best parents and the best partners because their willingness to love you so hard, even if it's unreturned, can make you feel like, my God, they need to have a partner that's going to protect them at all costs. Because it's people, these narcissists, these sociopaths, which again, I am not a licensed psychiatrist or psychologist. So we're talking about tendencies here. But those people, if a melancholic needs to be in a happy relationship, they need to be in a relationship with somebody to balance out that character of guarding their emotions and feelings because they will be, if they're not careful and have boundaries, they will be very susceptible to wolves in sheep's clothing. Okay? The downside that some may notice about the melancholic is that sometimes they tend to be a little pessimistic. So I'm trying to think of what the best example of a melancholic personality would be. If you're familiar with Winnie the Pooh, which I'm sure many of you are that are listening to this, we all know the character of Eeyore, right? He seems to be kind of loving, but he seems to be somewhat of a Debbie Downer too, where you're looking at this and you're like, Lord have mercy. Look at this donkey. Poor thing. All he does is complain. How does he still have friends that love him? That's because he's so deep in his emotions and he too comes across as very pessimistic. But really, he makes a good friend because you never have to judge or second guess his loyalty, right? He may not be feeling his best that day or any episode you really watch him, but he's gonna pull up. And for that, we love him. We love him for that. Now let's go to the next. And this is the last but not least. We have the phlegmatic. Now, what does the phlegmatic look like? They are highly intuitive, they are highly introverted, they are highly empathetic. So just like the melancholic, they too are empathetic. But their intuition, they are the ones who tend to think outside the box, and they believe in life there is actually more gray areas than black and white. They tend to be the people who are going to be what you would call the devil's advocate. They might see a choleric and a phlegmatic argue. Whole time the sanguine in the room is probably elbowing you like, yo, look at this, look at this, look at this. And here comes them and they're just like, I don't really see why either of them are arguing because everything is substantial. And then everybody's jaw drops like, yo, what? That's how they roll. That is how they roll, okay? And and yes, you can have more than one temperament. It is actually common to have two. And some may have qualifications and qualities of three. So to stress and drive this home, temperament and personality, not the same. Okay? Again, your temperament is more of an innate standpoint, and personality is always subject to change throughout life. The experiences that you may face, the obstacles you may face, the people who may leave an impact and may influence your mind, your heart, your soul. Yes, it is very important to take a look at who you are as a person and who others are around you. But it really starts with you getting to know yourself and who you allow to be around you. Because most of life and the experience you have, it's not so much. I know we like to focus on what we go through. It's actually not so much of what we go through, but how we react to what we go through. What is our true innate character? Right? What are the integral parts, the parts that if I was alone going through this and nobody saw, how would I react? What would be my deeply embedded action that the most high would see and, yep, I know she about to do this. I know she about to do this. I'm not even expecting her to do anything better, but I'm testing her. Maybe I'm sifting her right now for her purpose, right? Now, for the Myers-Briggs personality test and the temperament test, again, check out the description of this video. I hope that somehow I was able to bring more clarification as really to why you should maybe appreciate your own company more, get to know yourself more, so that you can see if others around you, even if they should even have a place around you. What purpose do they serve around you? Do they broaden your horizons? Are they just there for a good time, not a long time? Are they there to teach you something? Are they hindering you? That's a good one. You'll be surprised how many people you actually, at one point or one season in your life, that you admired, now maybe you've outgrown them. Where you're going is not necessarily where they're going. It's a lot to think about. I want to thank you for sharing your time with me and the Most High. Thank you for hitting the like button. Thanks for sharing. I really do appreciate my Trackstar family. You make this so worthwhile because I just love the open, honest dialogue we can have here. And it's rewarding to know at the end of each week and the beginning of each week that we put so much time into our families, into our romantic relationships, into our jobs, into our hobbies. But when do we ever make a me time? Do you have a self care Sunday routine? Because I do. It's called a starfish nap. Yes, when I come home from church, the way I hit that pillow and snore like I'm a hardworking father, a hardworking single father of 8, mind your business. Don't contact me until about 7, 8 p.m. And on that note, you guys have an amazing day. I love you so very much. And I will catch you later.